Okay, so today we're going to talk about labeling cross-sections using the corridor model that we prepared, left off with at last class. And if you missed that class, that recording is available on the CAD Management channel. So if you did miss that one and are coming to this one, you're going to be a little bit behind. But you can go back and watch that recording, and also you can see this one then once this is over if you have questions after this. We're going to take that design to the next level, and really we're going to plot the cross-sections for it and see how we do that. The workflow on doing cross-sections is a little bit different. Pull up a little image here that I have. Okay, so for doing cross-sections in Civil 3D, really the main piece, it's very easy to get it to show the template on the cross-section. So I'm talking about, cross-sections all the way down stationing. That's easy, and everybody can see that. The trick is to get it to really label all those, and to do that, you have to follow a specific workflow, which I'm about to show you. To get that labeling to happen, you're going to need 4 surfaces, as you can see I've outlined down here. So these are the 4 surfaces that we're going to need. Change my, okay, I guess that's what I'm going to have to live with. Right down here, we're going to create these surfaces today. Okay? Got to work on my paintbrush skills, I guess. The first surface, this dim pave, what that surface is going to be is it's going to be a surface that's generated from the top links of our template. So it's going to be a surface where I'm drawing this red line. And every place that there's a break and the template switches to a different kind of assembly, there's going to be break points in that surface. And using those break points, which we're going to create, it's really creating a surface you'll see here. It's just a couple clicks of a button since we already have the corridor modeled. It will label across to each of these grade break points. And that's what's going to give our dimensions for our roadway. Okay, something like this. And then it will put in these areas here, this would be where it would actually show the distance. So that's one aspect of the surface that or the corridor that we always label. And it's going to do that automatically. So if you have 800 cross-sections or 80 or 20 or 10, it's going to do them all at once, just like that. The next surface, and really that whole concept of how that surface generation leads to labeling is going to be followed through the entire process here. So another surface is going to be called dim road. So let me set this again. And that surface, instead of being each segment of the roadway, is going to be just from the center line to the edge. So you have a grade break here and here, and that's it. That's all that surface will be. Another surface will be striping. Well, our striping is going to be on our cross-section. We have stripes here for our white line, and we have a couple stripes on our roadway design. That's going to be for the center of the road for the turn lanes, and maybe another stripe for the other side for the single white line on the outside there. So that surface that we're going to generate for the striping, so that labels automatically, is going to be here and have a grade break there, here, and here, and way out here. And then last, the right-of-way surface, which is going to be a single straight surface that just comes right across, and it will label dimensions. Then will label from here to here. So hopefully that gives you some sort of insight. We're going to have these surfaces that we generate on top of each other from the corridor model. It's really all there. It's just picking on the right boxes, and using those surfaces, we're going to have the cross-sections label themselves. So let's get into Civil 3D here and do that. Okay, so we have this corridor design already pulled it down through. You can see it automatically hatched itself. If you ever do come up, a quick tip, if you ever do start using this hatch pattern, and this is generated by the corridor, so as I edit the corridor, this hatch will update automatically. If you ever get spaces and gaps, that means your frequency is too tight in your corridor. So you want to space your frequency out. And I'll lead into that in a little bit further. Pretty much at the end of the presentation, I'll hit on that. To generate the first surface, we're going to need the DIMS pave. We're going to bring open our prospector, and we're going to come down to our corridor model. You can recall we had the leveling corridor, which gives us our leveling surface that we lay our overlay and widening template on top of. And then our overlay and widening corridor is the actual assembly that goes down through the design for our overlay and widening of the road. I'm going to right click on that, hit properties. We're going to go to surfaces. And so you can see I have a finished grade surface that is the top links of the corridor. And we talked about links before in Civil 3D Bootcamp and in the last class. What those are, if you can recall, they're the little blue lines on the assembly. So the ones that are the top links are the very top of all the different assemblies available in Civil 3D. Well, in here, you can create as many surfaces as you want. So I'm just going to hit Create Surface again. I'm going to change the name to underscore DIMS pave. And for now, I'm going to set this to user reference 01, just for a reference surface so I can see how it looks, make sure I did it correctly. So I added the surface, but there's no data under it. And the two links that I'm going to add to it, instead of adding top, which would get everything, and I don't really want to have dimensioning to everything for my pave. I just want to do the paved parts of the road. I'm going to add my overlay links and my pave links. Okay? So I'm going to have to jot those down or come back to this. And I'll hit OK. And what that did is it made a surface, since we're using this assembly here as our reference surface. It made a surface that uses this link on the very top here, which is the overlay link. And how do I know that? Oh, I looked in the help. And it uses these links on the top for the pave, for the widening portion, and also the top link for the shoulder is also called pave. It did not, the surface will stop right here at the end of the shoulder because this link out here is called unpaved. This link right there, that line work. Okay? So let's go take a look at this surface that we just created. And you can see it right here on the screen. That's these dashed orange lines or brown lines, however they come across on your screen, is that surface we just generated. And you can see it stops right at the edge. Now, it's not, perfectly, straight through here, but don't get hung up on that. It doesn't really matter. The only spot that we really care about that surface is right where each assembly crosses. The reason there's this little jag in here is because our frequency, I have set it every 50 feet. So it's interpolating between station 7 and station 6 plus 50, and that's why it gets a little bit of a jag there. But don't worry about that. Ultimately, we're going to right-click on this surface, hit Surface Properties, and set this to No Display. Just want it as a piece of data. Okay, so that's one surface. Let's go create the next surface. I'm going to right-click on my overlay and widening template again, or corridor, hit Properties. Create another surface, call this underscore DIMS road. Again, let's set this to ref 1 just so we can see it. Turn off some of this PowerPoint and such. Okay. And I'm going to add some links to this surface as well. I'm going to add in there. Actually, I need to add in there feature lines. So feature line points. So let me cover this in a little bit more detail here because I need to add a point to our surface or our assembly. So the feature line, if I switch this data type from link to feature line, the feature line is the actual line work that runs down the corridor. So let me hit OK here. That surface will be generated, but it won't display anything because there's no data. These yellow lines you see, these are the feature lines that highlight on the screen when I hover over it. So the feature lines are what you see in plan view, and they're also what the surface is going to be generated from. But I want to generate a surface that's basically the center of the road and the outer edge, and that's it. So none of this stuff in between. None of it doesn't even know there's a difference between overlay and the widening and the shoulder. It's just going to go from the crown to the outer edge of shoulder and from this side to this edge of shoulder, okay? So to do that, I need to have a crown marked point. Unfortunately, with this overlay and widening template, there's no point code for the top of the crown here. If I go look in the help for that overlay and widening template, and I slide down here, you can see P1 here is this top point code here. Well, if you look up here on the help, there's no item for P1. You know, P1's not in the list. So how do I set a point code there if it's not already in the assembly? Well, the trick there is you use this little, you can generate point codes anywhere you want. So I'm going to right-click on my palette, go to Civil 3D Imperial, go down to my generic links, and here's this marked point code that I can set. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to change this to crown, and also change the point code to crown. Actually, you could keep this point name whatever you want. It's important that the point code name, although, is crown. And then I'm just going to pick my assembly here, which I did really quickly there by mistake. But you can see it there if I highlight over it. That's my crown marked point. So if I go back over to my corridor model, it now has the ability to place a feature line right down the center of the crown of my roadway here. Now, I don't want it to do that because I already have my alignment really represents the center of my roadway, so that's turned off by default. But I could do that now if I wanted to. More importantly, if I go back into my overlay and widening corridor and hit properties, if I go to feature lines, now there is a point code available that's crown. So I'm going to add the crown feature line to my road dim surface, and this edge of paved shoulder, EPS, edge of paved shoulder, is the very outside edge. So how do I know what these abbreviations are? Again, the subassembly help will guide you. The nice thing is there's might be 50 subassemblies, or not 50, maybe there's 8 subassemblies that have to deal with shoulder. Well, the outside edge is always EPS, edge of paved shoulder. So essentially you'll memorize them as well. EPS is edge of paved shoulder, ETW is edge of travel way, hinge is always the points in the daylighting where it might make breaks for a channel. Those are all called hinge, so on and so forth. So I'm going to add my edge of paved shoulder as well. Hit OK. And now you can see I have a surface that pulls from my crown to my edge of paved shoulder all the way across. Notice there's no grade breaks. Typically, if this would be the top surface, it would have a grade break here where I go from edge of overlay to my shoulder, since this is at 5% or 6%, and my shoulders or my paved sections at 2% cross slope. So you can see that reference there. That goes across and it shows the super. Again, we're going to click on this. We're going to set this to no display. I just wanted to show you that. Okay, so there's 2 of the 4, halfway done. If I wasn't doing this presentation, I could have that done in less than a minute. So it's not a big deal to make these surfaces. The next piece is to set my all my striping up. So I already have the striping drawn in here. I'm going to turn some of this stuff off to make it a little easier to see. I'm going to right-click on my corridor, hit corridor properties. I'm going to go to code sets. I want to get rid of all that that line work and hatching. I just want to turn it off for now. So I'm going to set my corridor to no display. Hit OK. So my corridor shuts off. The data's there. It just doesn't show it up on the screen anymore. These alignments here, if you can remember, this is my saw cut lines that I set my overlay width to. And then there's alignments here on the edge that is the edge of my widening, and then this is the outer edge of my shoulder. I want to turn those alignments off to keep my drawing clean for myself. So how do I do that? I can right-click on each alignment, but that's going to take a little bit of time. An easier way to do that is to come into Prospector, click on Alignments, the group at the top, bring this drop-down up, and you can click on these. You can hold down Control and click on a whole bunch of these at one time. Okay, and it's all the ones that are transition. You know, these are set to a transition style. After I highlight a whole bunch of these, I'm going to right-click on the header at the top here and hit Edit. And then I can set these all to no display all at once. The way I just did that works for almost everything in Civil 3D. You can turn off a whole bunch of surfaces all at once, so on and so forth. All right, so now I'm going to go down to my striping, highlight all that, right-click on it, hit Edit. I'm going to change this to Striping Proposed style, hit OK, and you can see my striping shows up. So I made alignments from my striping that it's going to be represented on my plans are going to be alignments in this drawing. It could be polylines. You can target polylines just as well. We started this project in 2008, Civil 3D. You couldn't target polylines in that version, but in 2009 you can. If you are going to use polylines, people do need to, people tend to respect alignments a little bit more than polylines. Just be cautious. I'd be cautious if you use polylines because they are more than just a polyline if you're going to target them. They have a lot to do with a lot of other things. So anyways, I have these alignments. It's my striping, so you can see my road widens out. And really the project was, the HOP part was to create these center turn lanes, and then it comes back together here at the end of the project, okay? And what I need to do is make a corridor to target these alignments to sort of have the striping control some point codes that go in and out that I can make a surface off of. To help everybody out with this, switch back to palettes. That assembly that we're going to need to do this with for striping is a little, it's not complicated. It takes a little bit of thought to set up the first time. But once it's set up, it's fairly simple. So knowing that, I already have it set up. Go to the HRG Design palette. Go to Civil 3D Assemblies, and you'll see it there. Exec DIMS Assembly. Just click it. Don't drag it. Just click it. And then you can click in your drawing here where you want to place it. All right. And then hit Enter. And that pulls it in. And really what this is a whole bunch of assemblies or sub-assemblies attached to this. These are all the little sub-assemblies attached to this assembly that have different point codes assigned to them. So this is going to be my white 4-inch line on the right, white 4-inch line on the left, double yellow on the right, double yellow on the left, right away on the right, right away on the left. So you might need more or less of these. If you need less, you're fine. If you need more, you can add more into them. The sub-assemblies that I used, I'll show you here in a second, but I assigned point code names to them, and that's all this is. Right now, when you look down here, they're all stacked on top of each other because the width that you can see up here, the offset from baseline is 0. So they're all, all these different point codes can stretch out to the left. You know, they can stretch out this way and back, or they can stretch out to the right, you know, this way and back. But if they're not targeted to anything, they just stack right in the center. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. The subassembly I used to create this, not to go in too much depth on this because it's created for you, but you might need to add more, is just this link, offset, and slope, okay? Or you can use link, offset, and surface. Either one of these will work for you. I just attached them and assigned point code names. Okay, so let's make this striping corridor that I need just for labeling. I'm going to go up here to my corridor pull down, create simple corridor, call this striping. Pick my road center line. It doesn't really matter what the alignment you're going to pick here, but I'm going to pick the top of overlay design for my profile. And then I'm going to hit enter there and pick my XX DIMS assembly. And in here is where I need to target all these different point codes. So they're all going to be targeted to follow my finished grade surface, right? That's the very top of the roadway. So those point codes will ride down the corridor itself. And this is why it's sort of critical to create an independent corridor model for this. Because if you would add this assembly in the same corridor that you create the roadway with, and then you target the surface that's created from the corridor, you'd create this loop where it would always try to keep updating itself, because, you know, you'd like make this nexus, this black hole, where, you know, it would eventually, it wouldn't actually lock up your computer, but you'd hit OK if you'd do that, and you just see the little progress bar at the bottom just keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and will never stop because it keeps infinitesimally updating the surface, which is built from the corridor, and the corridor reads the surface, which is built from the corridor, and then just keeps going back and forth. So don't do that. Make its own. If you're doing this striping thing, put it in its own corridor. All right. So the offset alignments, my white line, 4-inch white line on the right. I'm going to go ahead and click that. Here, instead of knowing all their names, you could do it that way, but I'm just going to hit this select from drawing. So hit that. It's my right side here. It's only one, so it's pretty simple. Hit OK. And this dialog's a little confusing. When you use that, it doesn't seem like it did anything, but actually it highlights the one you want down at the bottom. And then you just hit add. I'll show you here a little bit more of that. I'll do the left. Hit add. And here's where it really comes into play, where you can see this highlighting business. Select from drawing. Sorry. Okay, okay. Right line right, on left. Double yellow on the right. And hit this select, and it's different alignments. So it's this alignment, this alignment, this alignment, and this alignment. Okay. And as you can see, it highlights the ones I need, which are different ones down there. So just hit add. I'm going to do the double yellow. Get it again. Double yellow left. This one, this one, this one, and this one. Hit add. I'm going to do the right away right. It's also an alignment. Could be a polyline in 2009, but in this project, like I said, we did it in 08. So I had to make an alignment. And the right away left. Hit add. Hit OK. Hit OK again. Okay, let's take a look at this corridor that we just made. So I'm going to right-click on the striping corridor, hit Properties. And the code set is set to HRG plan set. I'm going to actually change that to assembly design. So so I can see the little point codes. And you can see, it created these cross sections down through here, and I'm going to actually orbit the drawing here. Or not. Computer's running slow on this webcast for some reason today. But you can see these little circles here, and you probably see it best up here. You got a couple things going on. The right-of-way ones go clear out to the right-of-way line. So hopefully you can see that. You got the right-of-way and the left. The little circles in the middle, go down to here. See how they're getting farther apart and they're changing location? Well, that's following the striping as it widens out. In this area right through here. Okay? So we're going to make a surface from that. Right-click on striping again, hit Properties. We're going to make our two final surfaces. Go into Surfaces here, and we're going to hit Create Surface. Call this _ dims strp. And the links we're going to add into this, since I coded it up for you already, I have the striping pieces coded separately from the right-of-way, so I'm going to add the striping links. Just that simple. Create another surface called _ dims ROW. Yep. Same thing. Going to add links, add right-of-way links. And then on both these surfaces, I'm going to set these to no display. And hit OK. All right, there's our 4 surfaces. That's it. That's all we needed. Took 30 minutes to go through the whole concept and everything, but in reality, if I need to do that, and this would be, you would do this a lot, it would probably take you 2 minutes to set all these 4 surfaces up. You drag the thing in, set the targets, you're done. You do have to set the right-of-way stuff up on the alignments, but that's, draw your polylines in there. Hit, if you want to keep them as alignments and not target polylines, you can always use the create alignment from polyline command. All this stuff is dynamic, of course. If I move my right-of-way, if I move my striping, if I move the center line in my road, everything is all connected together yet. So it's all dynamic. So when revisions come down the pipe, it's not like I have to start all over. I just start moving stuff. If I want to extend this striping out a little bit farther here or shorten this striping up here, and I already have the cross sections made, cross sections will automatically update just by dragging these lines and rebuilding the corridor. So let me show you some of this. Let me actually go through and pull the cross sections. That's essentially it for this drawing. Make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, no, I didn't miss anything. That's it. So I'm going to save this file, close it. I'm going to open up a new file here. I'm not going to check it in. I'm just going to leave it checked out for now. So I'd open up a brand new file. You'd never want to pull your cross sections in the same drawing as your corridor. It will work, but it's going to be really slow. They take a lot to generate. Since it's dynamic, you'll go and change something in your corridor. It will try to rebuild the corridor model, and then it will try to change all the cross sections all at the same time. It just really slows it down. It takes up a lot of RAM, and when it takes up that much RAM, you start getting memory errors, or you might not even get memory errors. It just starts getting unstable, and it could crash on you. A lot of things a lot of people don't know is even when you start getting close to your memory limits, you start getting crashes just because you're closer to your memory limits. You might not even hit them. So I created a brand new drawing here, And in that brand new drawing, I'm going to data reference in a couple of things. I'm going to data reference in some of these surfaces that I created. I'm going to data reference in the alignment here, my road center line alignment. And that's about it. The rest of this stuff is just from the template, nothing in it. So brand new drawing, just data reference in these dim surfaces and your road center line. And if you want for reference, in this drawing, I data reference in my alignments for my right-of-way left and right. You don't have to bring these in, but you can. Let me see if I can repair these broken links since I went through this already. I didn't think to create a reference and cancel. I actually have to delete these here. Delete the reference, parallel references. Sorry about this. I sort of went through this. I wasn't thinking they'd be available for data reference, but I didn't remember to reset this drawing. Okay, so the surfaces aren't in here. I need to bring those back in. Let me go ahead and do that. Open my source drawing here again. Okay, back in the source drawing. I might need to check this in just to make those the surfaces available for data reference. Yeah. Okay. All right, so I did need to check that drawing in because I'm going to need to data reference those surfaces across, and if I don't check it back into Vault, I can't data reference them in. Okay, close this drawing. Down my project, hopefully with any luck. There they are. All right, so new drawing, data reference in my alignment, and then I'm going to data reference in these surfaces. This just needs to be synchronized. There we go. Okay, create reference. No display. When I have them all set to no display, just hit OK. Create reference again. It's going to bring in my road dims, surface. No display is good there again. Right away. No display, hit OK. Striping, finally, hit OK. So I have the surfaces in here. Go ahead and sample my cross sections. So to sample cross sections, just go up to my cross sections pull down and go to hit create sample lines. And I got a question here. Hold on, let me address that question real quick. It says, Mark, on your previous drawing, the yellow white line at station 800 crosses over the center line. Does this cause a problem if you designate the left or the right? Would you have to break the alignment? No, I do not have to break the alignment. It does not cause a problem. That's a very good question. Mike was saying, you know, right here that this, I told this that it's the left yellow line, but it crosses over to the right side of the center line. He's paying attention. Good man. That's why it's critical to use these assemblies up here, these offset, because these do not care if it's left or right. The reason you can sort of tell into that is if you click on the assembly, see there's no left or right designation here. It's a positive offset or a negative offset. That's all the computer knows. It's sort of like our overlay and widening. Positive offset or negative. So it doesn't know what's left or right. It just knows, you know, on the right side it's a positive, on the left side it's a negative offset, and it goes down and will cross back and forth across the center line. Great question. Do not be tempted to use this width and slope. If you use that, it will give you the same results, but this will care if you cross over the center line. This does not work with crossing over the center line of the road. It's either got to be all on the right side or all on the left side for those. So again, the striping subassembly is pretty much set up for you already, but if you do add to it, you do need to keep that in mind. And just use this, you should be in good shape. Great question. Is to go ahead and pull our sample lines. To do that, I'm going to go into the cross or the sections pull down and go up to the create sample lines. Then it asks me to pick my alignment. If you're in view of your alignment, you can just select it, or I can just press enter and select it from a list. I chose to choose enter, and I can select it right here from a list. This is the cross-section or sample line groups that it's going to make, so I'm just going to leave that default naming convention the way it is, but you could name this sample line group anything you want, and we'll talk about sample line groups here in a little bit. And this is all the data that can be available to show on these sample lines. Now, there's an important piece here, and the important piece is you don't ever want to just leave all this stuff checked. And the subtle differences in the icons, I wish there was more of a difference, but they're sort of subtle. You can see these top, 5 surfaces here. The icon for a surface looks like a little green thing with some triangles. Okay, so those are surfaces. We do want to bring all those in. We want to sample the EG and those dim surfaces. Now, although those dim stripe and dim right away, we want to bring that data over so it can draw all the dimensions with it. We don't really want to show those. If we leave this how it is right now, it would show a little red line where they are. Now, that's okay because it would, you really wouldn't see it because it's going to line up right with the top of your cross-section, but that adds to stuff that needs to regenerate and slowness, and this is where I find people get into trouble with Civil 3D a lot when they're talking about slowness. It's like, you got to pay attention and, not show all these surfaces. There's no need for it, and that's a lot of stuff to regen for all of these cross-sections we're going to plot. So we're going to click on each one of these and set these to no display. Unfortunately, you can't highlight them all and set them all at once, so you just have to pick down through in this dialog. Some dialogues you can and some you can't. This one you can. My EG, I do not want to have it show up as my DM3 finished grade. I want to have that show up as my DM3 existing grade, so I'm going to set that. And I'm going to go down through here and just uncheck all these corridor objects. The only thing we want to show, and this is the subtle difference I really don't like, this piece of information, this piece of information, and these are the actual corridors. If you really look tight, and I wish I could zoom in, but I can't with the software, the webinar software. So you can see the road is sort of wide and you can see the little white dash in there. That's what's, keying into you that it's a corridor model. If you look at this ones directly below it, notice how the same road is smaller. It's like you're higher in the airplane looking at this road and surface. That means it's a surface built from a corridor. Well, we're already sampling those here, so we don't need to sample those again. And I don't need to sample my leveling course corridor or my striping. Really, the corridor that has the main template for the overlay and widening was that overlay and widening corridor model. So I'm going to check that on. And my style for that, I want to set that to DM3 cross-section labels. You can see this is going to label everything. Okay? So I don't see any questions on that, so I'm just going to keep going. And of course, we want everything to be dynamic. That's, dynamic is a good thing here. You have some choices here. This is the sample line. This depicts how the sample line is going to look. We only really have one style for that. It's just going to put a gray line with some dashes in it. Typically don't show those on plans anyways, so you can freeze that layer later. And this is going to be the sample line labels. We're just going to leave that as this name and section marks. And I'll show you that later as well, and how we can change that up if you guys want to start leveraging showing your sample lines in plan view, how you can do that. Okay, I'm going to hit OK. And this is also pretty confusing. It's asking me to pick a station, specify, if you read the command prompt, specify station along alignment. As soon as I saw that, when I used this software, I thought, geez, I have to pick every station? I just want to go over 50 feet. What, how is this faster? You don't have to pick each station. It's just what it throws you into the first, when you first go into this toolbar here. The options, this stuff to the left, right through here on the screen, we really set everything up here already. We're right now at this step, this sample line creation method, and by default, when it first goes into this, it puts you in the at station chooser mode here, and I don't really want to be specifying these by station. I really want to do it by station range, or by range of stations, which is also not a great name. It should say by interval to me, but it doesn't. So what you need to do is hit that drop down and go up to by range of stations, and then you get a nice dialog that comes up that has some information on it that's more what we're looking for here. So here you can say, well, I'm going to start my cross sections from the beginning of the alignment all the way to the end, or you can do from a certain station range. So you could set this to false and then say, well, I'm only going to do cross sections from, station 100 to maybe 1200. There's nothing really at the ends of the alignment. They're there just for, tying in to the existing alignments, so on and so forth. So you have those options. The width, we're going to set ours at a default 30-foot width. Notice you can also set this to true up here, and I could make an alignment, say a right-of-way alignment, and have my sampling width vary. So it would actually sample out and target to an alignment. So as that alignment goes in and out, my sampling width would go in and out with it automatically. Okay? So that's a nice little option. I don't know if that's going to get used all that much, but it's there. Just keep it in mind. Right now, we're just going to keep that as false and do 30 and 30. And use sample increments. That's true. We're going to do 50 feet for, tangents, arcs, and spirals. And if you set all these to the same, that means you're just going to do 50-foot cross sections everywhere. Of course, you could tell it to do true, and I could do sample points at super elevation critical points and so on and so forth. I'm just going to have those false for now. So we're going to accept the defaults, which I understand is pretty much what we use. We just do stations every 50 feet, and that's pretty much it. So I'm going to hit OK. And then you can see the gray lines come up on the screen. Now this is the sample points. So at that point, I'm just going to hit enter. I'm good to go. I can go back to that at any point and add sample lines anywhere I want. Say I do want to do a sample line at certain points. I could go back into that dialog. I'd go back in. I'd go create sample lines, pick the alignment again. Takes me right into the dialog, since it knows there's already a sample line group applied with it. And I could, maybe, do at certain stations. I could go back into by station, by range of station, set all this stuff to false, and maybe just add, I'd set the false, 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 true, true, true there. If I set these to false, I would never want to do this again, right? Because then it would put sample lines on top of my sample lines. That's not good. But say I wanted to add sample lines in my super elevation critical points, I could set this to true, and then it would just add the 3 or 4 sample lines at the super elevation critical points, or so on and so forth. All right, well, I'm just going to hit cancel here. I don't want to do that. Close this dialog again. One thing I also wanted to cover before, before we actually plot the cross sections are typically, when you create this drawing, maybe you had it at 50 scale, just because I think that's our default scale of our template. But when we actually plot the cross sections in model space, we need it to be at 5 scale. So here's a little tip for you. Instead of, so how do we set that 5 scale? If you're going to go down in the selector here for annotative scales, you won't see a 5 scale right off the bat. It's not available. It's not one of the available selections. So you could go in here and hit customize and make one, But an easier way to do it is just go to Settings in Civil 3D on the Prospector tab there, and the tool space, go under the Settings tab. Right-click on the top-level drawing, hit Edit Drawing Settings, and set this to 5, your custom scale, and hit OK. What that will do is that's going to change your drawing to 5 scale, and it's going to automatically create a nice 5 scale annotative style down there for you. So you sort of kill 2 birds with 1 stone. It's much quicker, much cleaner, and you get a nice scale that's built the same way as the rest of them. So we want to set that drawing to 5 scale. Now we're ready to plot these cross sections. So I'm going to come over to my PennDOT grid, which I inserted from our HRG palette. So, if you don't know where that's at, you actually use our little HRG palette tool here. You go down to PennDOT, first bring up your palette, go to HRG palettes, go to borders, and go down to PennDOT. Here's our PennDOT grids. We're still going to insert these like we have in the past, okay? And then once inserted, I'm going to put that on a layer that I'm going to lock. So I put that on my 99 title block layer, and then I'm going to lock that layer. And what does locking that layer do for me? Well, if I unlock that layer, just to show you, every time I hover over this thing, it highlights, which is a real pain in the butt. If you lock that layer that you put that block on, now when I highlight over it or slide over it with my cursor, it doesn't highlight anymore. So that's a nice thing. And you don't have to worry about it moving now on you either. Of course, you'd want to do a couple of them before you lock the layer. So I'm going to go up to cross sections again. We're going to do create section view. And in here we can pick which cross section or which sample line we want to plot. For this example, I'm just going to plot station 200. Notice if I change station 200, it picks the different sample line. And let me show you what that references to. See these sample lines? It actually started at 55 since I ran through this a couple times already. So that sample line name corresponds with, if I browse over here, and let me just change this back to 50 real quick just so you can see it. See how this sample line 57, sample line 58, so 56 is 100, 57 is 1 plus 50, and 58 is 200. If I go back over again, change this back to 5 before I plot it. Notice if I change this to 200, it's going to be 58. If I change it to 150, 57, vice versa. If I change this over here, it automatically changes to the station. So I'm going to change to station 200. Pretty much everything else in here should be good to go for you. I'm going to go down to section views here just for demonstration purposes. I'm going to show you how to label these right from this dialog, but then I'm going to show you a slightly quicker way just in a second. So here's how we're going to use these leverage these surfaces to label all my information. My DIMS pave surface, I'm going to go to where it says change labels. I'm going to click that. I'm going to change that to the corresponding style. So I'm going to change that to pave DIMS. Okay, road, change that to road DIMS. Right away, change that to right away DIMS. Striping, change that to striping DIMS. Okay. My EG, I'm going to change that to no display. I don't want to label anything for my EG. Okay. My data bands, I don't need data bands, so I'm going to change that to none. And I'm going to hit create section view. I'm going to go down to my PennDOT grid, and here's the big one. Here's the exciting part about this whole thing. You pick that, and bam, there's all your labeling. Now you can see it's a little crunched up here. So how do we fix that? Well, I'm just going to right click on the numbers, not the numbers are actually the section view. I'm going to hit section view properties, and I'm going to take this and change this in under elevation tab. I'm going to actually make the section view higher. See, it's a little crunched. So it tried to figure it out automatically, but you know, it needs to be a little higher. So I'm going to change that to 565 and hit OK. And there we are. You have, and maybe you know, you want to bring that a little bit higher here. There's a couple choices you have. You can bring that section view even a little higher here for this little bit of discrepancy or overlapping text, or you can just grab this this label and bring it down. Now, I know there's a gazillion ways that we plot cross sections, but from we sort of have to normalize that across HRG. And talking with our traffic group, this whole G dash and the elevation, that's how our Pittsburgh office does it. Our traffic department here in Harrisburg is going to standardize on this method as well. So that seems like the way we're going to go. If you're in an office that does it a little differently, just because you do it different doesn't mean it needs to remain that way. This is the easier way to do it. And if you could switch over to this method, I'm sure you'd be fine. I'm sure that's our transportation as a group has sort of accepted that from what I understand. The correct people have been talking about it, you know, service group manager and so on and so forth, and they're okay with it. So you can see what I get. I get my slopes, my dimensions to my striping, my dimensions to my features on the roadway, my dimensions of the overall roadway, and my dimensions to the right-of-way. Another thing that has come up that we've talked about a lot of times in the past, we would label maybe the entire paved section all the way across. With this labeling method, you're not going to be able to do that. It's going to label everything from the center line of the road. That's how they build it. Again, that's been another thing that's been okayed by service group manager and traffic group, and Pittsburgh's okay with it. So, you know, if everybody can get on board there, we should be in great shape. Might want to move this padding out. Say, you know, this station marker here is a little close. Let's slide that out. So I'm going to hit the section view properties, or I'm sorry, hit edit. Let me back up a second. I'm going to click on the text again, right click and hit edit section view style. And in here there's a padding. Basically this padding has to deal with these numbers. How far are they going to be away from where the sampling stops? So I'm going to make that a 2 for each of these. And you can see it will move out the text from there. So we can just keep doing that and going through. Unfortunately, you do have to plot each sample or each cross section one at a time. And that's because we use this PennDOT grid. If we didn't use that, I could do them all at once, but we use the PennDOT grid, and that's something we have to use. So the PennDOT grid is forcing us to do them one at a time, which is okay because in reality, unlike in Land Desktop, you might have to do that a bunch of times. Where in Civil 3D, this is all completely dynamic. So if I go back and change that corridor model, move those striping alignments around, all this text automatically upgrades or updates. If I go ahead and change elevations, change slopes, supers, all this geometry and text that you see is all automatically dynamic and linked. So let's go back up. Let's plot another one. I'm going to hit Create Section View again. And you'd think, well, I can just go to change this to 2 plus 50 and hit Create Section View and then place it again. But when you do that, you don't get all the labeling. You think, oh, geez, I have to set it up every time. Well, no, and this is the second way I'm going to show you to do it. What I recommend is that when you come in to label or place your cross sections, just come in and do each station. Don't worry about the labeling. Just hit create section view, do 300, and then say I had another grid over here. You just hit enter, really. Change this down. You'd have to remember, okay, well, I did 300, now I'm doing 350. Place that one, hit enter. I'm going to do 400, place that one, and so on and so forth, and get them all plotted. Okay, so they're all plotted, and we have that done. So I have a file here that I can fast forward to that point and show you that. Don't want to check this in. All right, so in this file, I got it set up ahead of time where I went through and just plotted each cross-section. So that piece of road there, it's not all that long, but it doesn't turn out to be that many stations. I mean, this probably took me 2 minutes, not even, probably a minute to plot all these. You hit enter, go to the next station, pick it, hit enter, go to the next station, pick it, hit enter, go to the next station, pick it, so on and so forth. Not a big deal. And from there, how do I label these all at once? So to do that, you can either right-click on the text itself and go to section view group properties, because remember when we sampled and made those sample lines, that's in a group. It's a sample line group. So I can modify the entire group all at once. One way is to do that is to right-click on just one of them, like I said, and go to section view group properties, and you have to right-click on the text. The text is actually the section view. If you click on this piece of the section, this is actually the cross-section itself. You can see when I highlight that and I do a right-click, I get different options. And then this is a surface, cross-section surface. So that's a different object itself. The other thing I can do is I can go into Prospector here, my Civil 3D Toolspace, go to the Prospector tab. If I hit under Alignments and go under that center line alignment, my sample line group's actually sort of hiding under the alignment. So if I go under sample line groups, I can see here's my one sample line group. You can see here's all the section data. Here's all the sample lines. And here's the sample line views that are up on the screen. So as you plot more and more, this list gets longer. I can add or remove data with this and so on and so forth, but let's keep on track here. I'm going to right-click on my sample line group in Prospector and hit Properties. Both takes me to the same dialog. And I want to go to the Section Views tab. And I know there's a lot of dialogues here, and it is mildly confusing even to me, using this for this long, where the little picks are. Again, go back to the video or jot down some notes. You're just going to have to get comfortable with it through use. It is a little, where do I find what I'm looking for kind of thing with cross-sections. Most everything is under the sample line group properties dialog, this dialog. Under here, I'm going to go to section display and click the little ellipsis button here. And here I'm presented with that same screen when I'm, when I'm plotting the cross sections. We went down second up from the bottom there, and I could choose the label sets here. Well, I can do the same thing. I can hit the, pave for pave dim. I can go under for road surface and hit road. Right away. Go to right away. Striping, go to striping. And EG, I set that to keep that in no display. Okay? And what this allows you to do is I can, in this view, I'm changing them all at once. If I hit this show sections for all sources, I can actually see each sample line or each surface, then all the cross sections it's available in, and then set them individually. know why you would do this necessarily if you need to customize things, but you can see all the information there. Just keep this unchecked. It makes it a lot simpler. And I hit OK. Hit OK again, and just give it a second. And bam. All your cross sections label with all the station information or all the dimension information. One thing you will probably have to do, even in this method, is go through and right-click on each section view, hit section view properties, and you might need to adjust this up or down. You can set this to any interval. This is the elevation tab. So if I take this down to 360, it's going to move that grid down. And when it does that, all these dimensions are coming off the top of the section view grid. You can't see the section view grid because we have it turned off, but it's right, you can see it's right through here. So as I move that grid up and down, it moves these dimensions up and down. So you might have to go through, you are going to have to go through and make those adjustments. But again, you have to do it just one time for the entire project life, and you should be in good shape. Any questions on that? Like I said, in here you can move these spot elevations down if you don't want the G when the I understand the G for there, but say you don't want the G when you slide it down and you want to get rid of this G. You click on it and you think, oh, well, I can't edit it. Or say I want to add some text after this. What you need to do is hold down Control on your keyboard. And notice when I highlight over things right now, when I highlight over any dimension, all of them highlight, right? But I'm going to hold down Control. You can't see me do it. You'll just take my word for it. And when I do that, my cursor changes, first of all. And now when I highlight over items, they individually highlight. Notice that. See that? So I can go select this one piece of text in the section. I can either hit Edit Label Text and type in some custom, crown. Type in some custom data. I could maybe take the G off if I wanted to do that. My G wasn't working for me there. Let me try that again. There it goes. Huh, that's interesting. If I hold down Shift, you can see it do that. Well, sort of went off script with pulling the G out like I did there. Usually what I want to do to pull that G off is I can change the style here. Instead of going to Edit Label Text, just go to Edit Label Style, and I can change this to HRG Spot Elevation, no G. And once I do that, should teaches me for going off script. Should pull that away. All right. It's worked before, I swear. Try it over here. Oh, what's going on here? Take this one, pull it down. I click on the hold down Control, click on the label so I just get the one. Go down here to Edit Label Style and change this to the no G. And there we go. That one's working. But that's available. I'll have to get back, or if you guys have that issue I'm having here, I'll have to check that out. I wonder if I just close and open the drawing, it could be fine again. But you can make the custom edits you want. You can take these lines and I can drag them up or down one at a time at different spots, or I could, maybe I want to do them all. I hold down Shift, grab them all, slide them up and down. Okay, so it's very versatile, and it's, again, all dynamic. So at this point, you could plot these cross sections before you even have the corridor model completed, and as the model becomes complete, the data will come up. Now let me show you something that people might run into here that will trip them up. And you split into two views here. And let me go to my cross section. So we're going to go to station 800, okay? And I'm going to find station 800 on my plot. Let's go back. I didn't plot the 800. Let's go to station 700. Did I plot the 700? Let's go back even farther. All right, 600. We'll go to 600. All right. Sorry about that. Let's go to station 600. Now, here's my sample line, and here's my cross-section. Now, as you can see, if I grab that cross-section and say I want to slide it up a distance. So say I want to slide it up 10 feet. So I'm going to draw a circle from the insertion point for 10 feet. I'm going to grab that and slide this up 10 feet. And watch what happens to my dimensions. Everything gets all screwed up. So you're thinking, oh, geez, you know, great system, but it doesn't work. Well, it does work, but the problem is you can even see my cross-section disappears down here. Why did it do that? Well, if you recall in our corridor model drawing, let me open that back up again, we only did sampling data-wise every 25 feet. So when I moved that, I'm at station 600, see the blue line here? That's the actual cross-section. That's where it's calculating all the slopes out and targeting into the surface. There's not a sample 10 feet up, or station 6 plus 10. You know, there's not a blue line here. So how do I fix this? Well, I could put a specific sample point there in my corridor model, or I could just change this entire corridor model to be to view at 10 foot. Depends really what you wanted to do. For ease of just this class here, I'm just going to change this corridor model to read every 10 foot. So I'm going to go into my corridor properties. I'm going to go into the parameters tab, and I'm going to change my frequency. Instead of 25, I'm going to change this to 10. I don't have any spirals, but I do have some curves. Hit OK. Now the corridor is going to take longer to build, but it's going to be more accurate. So that's the corridor model. Now what you're actually seeing on the screen here is the striping model. So I'm going to go into that as well. Do the same deal. Okay, so now the striping is sampling every 10 feet. I'm going to save this file. I'm just going to switch using holding down Control and hitting Tab. I can cycle into my other drawing. I get some updates here. I'm going to hit Update for my XREF. So you see my section shows back up, but my dimensions are still wacky. Well, I still have to synchronize my my surfaces. So once all those surfaces synchronize, now I'm back in business. Okay, so is there any questions on that? I don't see anything on the board. Must be doing a good job today, or people just aren't paying attention. Once now that I have this sampled every 10 feet, I can move this sample line. Say I put a bunch of 10-foot circles here, so I have an even measurement. And watch as I move this sample line back and forth, you're going to see the dimensions on the roadway change. So I move it back and forth, up or down, and that's going to automatically update. I must have not hit exactly right. You have to be right on, so maybe one of my circles here is a little off of the 10-foot mark, which I could have easily did because I didn't snap very well there. But you have to be, very accurate, and as long as you're right on the mark, you should be fine for everything showing up. Again, went off script there a little bit. Of course, I got pinged for it. 10 feet. Grab this, slide it up. There we go. So now you can see that I, moved it to correct distance. It updated correctly. All right. And that's essentially it. I mean, you have plotted cross sections. Where are the sample lines update? Why didn't the sample lines update? All right. Okay, I got a couple questions here. One is, why didn't the sample lines update? I guess I have a... Okay, let's talk about that. The sample line, the corridor frequency, and I think this is what you're getting at, Chris, is independent from the cross sections. In Land Desktop, they were not. If you pulled cross sections every 50 feet, that's the accuracy you were getting. I could pull my corridor model and have the corridor, the frequency set to, drawing up in here. So this corridor model, I can have the frequency set to every foot. So this corridor model would be very accurate, sampling every foot. But I could still only just pull my cross sections every 50 feet. Does that make any sense? So they're independent. It's not, if you wanted to, say I wanted to add more sample lines in here, like every 10 feet, I would have to go back in to sections here, hit create sample lines, pick my alignment, go over in here by station range, and then change this to 10 feet. And then I'll add sample lines in every 10 feet. Okay. Thanks for I appreciate the reply you got there saying that that helped you out. Okay, good. Bill had a question. How do we add labels for drainage pipes and structures and cross sections? Okay, that's another great question. I don't think I have the data here to show that. If I had a pipe network, let me just draw it real quick. Say I have this road. Usually you wouldn't have your pipes in your cross-section drawing, but I'd have to create them in data ref, check the file in and data. It's going to take too long. So let me just do it here real quick in this drawing. I'm going to go to pipes and just make some pipes down the line. I'm going to call this storm maybe proposed, and it's going to target my top of the road, I guess. I don't have the surfaces I would need correctly, but call this storm. All right, sort of ad hoc. Forgive me for this. Just hit OK. And so somebody would have drawn this out previously in Civil 3D for you. In another drawing, you'd have to data reference the pipe network into your drawing. Okay, so you data reference this pipe network into the cross-section drawing. Pick a couple inlets here, a couple pipe sizes, and pick one. Okay. So I'm going to place an inlet, and place one right on the sample line here. Okay. So I have a pipe. Hopefully it designed itself to, Civil 3D has some rules, so hopefully it designed itself and has some sort of vertical in it for me. Again, I'm off script. We'll have to see if this works. Going to go into my sample line group and expand that. I'm going to click on sections here. I'm going to hit add more sources. Okay? And you can do this at any time. Now I have this pipe network that's in this drawing. Like I said, Bill, if somebody traded this in some other job, maybe when you plotted the cross sections, they didn't have it done yet, or didn't even have it created, a network to even begin with. And you'd have to data reference it into your drawing. then it would show up here. Hit add, okay? Hit OK. And then let's take a look and see what we got. We are at station 500. Okay, there you go. So at station 500, you can see the oval now for that. Now you can see it's sort of octagonish, right? Facet dev, I think. Yeah. If you type in the command facet dev, change this to 0.1. That's going to get you a cleaner circle, maybe 0.05. You know, the lower your facet dev, the slower your drawing, but the cleaner that circle. So you have to make a choice there. And then here's my structure. Still learning a little bit. I'm trying to figure out how, if this structure doesn't lie exactly on the sample line, how it's supposed to show up. I think it's possible, but I still need to figure that out myself. But if it does fall right on it or any of those pipes, then it's just simply going up to general, add labels, and just like everything else, change this down to section view. Actually, I think I want to change it to pipes because I'm labeling pipes. Pipe network, sorry. Single part section, and then we have some, you know, limited styles here for this. But you can hit add, pick the structure. I think we have one for pipes. Yeah, you know, we might need to beef up on our styles a little bit there. I think Josh Sadison's working on that right now, actually, getting these styles to show up a little bit better. Do know that, I don't know if we're doing something wrong, but we have had the pipes be a little skittish on us, act a little weird, show up or not show up. So I think I think it was through a data reference. That's typically the trouble, is that you'll go into your cross-section drawing and all of a sudden these pipes won't show up. You'll go over and hit synchronize data references, and then they will show up, but the labels will be gone. I think how Josh is handling that is he's labeling them, and then I think he's exploding this label so it stays, and then he just remembers the data reference, or just to hit update data reference when they don't show up. Something we could be missing, or I'm sure it's going to get better if that is a glitch with the next release, which is probably already fixed, but just be aware there is a little bit of goofiness with pipes and cross sections. Hopefully that answers, how do we add labels, change it, okay, pipe size. Hopefully that seems like that should have answered your question. If you have more question on that, okay, good job. Thanks. All right, any other questions? You can actually add labels as well if you just go up to general, add label. There's some other label types in here. You know, if you have to add more labels in here, just change this to section view. You can label grade breaks or spot elevations. You know, if you label these using these labels, they're still all dynamic, but they don't update with the model. Like if the model moves, the label doesn't necessarily update. For example, if I do a, let me change this to DM3 elevation only. I'm going to hit, check that, and change the marker to none. Hit add. It tells me to select the section view. Well, that's the text, right? And click that, and then I can place this spot elevation wherever I want. And it doesn't look all that great, right? Until you drag it out, and then it looks okay, right? You need some more specific stuff, but keep in mind, say I was targeting this right to this endpoint, right? So as you can see, as I move that around, the numbers change. But the important fact here is that if somebody changes the design of this and moves this row, changes to 3%, it's not like this label automatically moves up. You still have to go grab it and retarget the endpoint. Okay. The other thing to really keep in mind, don't shoot yourself with, is you cannot I can take this label once I have it generated, and I can just use the AutoCAD copy command and copy and paste. And as I copy and paste, the AutoCAD copy, not the copy and paste under edit. I see a lot of people trying to use that. Don't use this. It's bad for that, for trying to do that. You can see the numbers change. All right, that's cool. But I see then people trying to do this. And they copy, and they take this up to the next section view. Yeah, don't do that. Because look, this 576.55, this says 545. Well, this is reading the datum for this section view, not this one. So you can copy them in that section view, but don't move them up to the next one. I had somebody do that, and they labeled like a whole bunch. This is before we had this automatic labeling, so they labeled all this stuff. I came back, I said, oh, yeah, that's great. They're all wrong. So they had to delete them all. You have to use this add label tool for the section view specifically, get one placed. Once that one is placed in that section view, you can copy and paste it around. There's all kinds of stuff. We have stuff in here for slope and so on and so forth. Grade, flat grade, steep grade. Flat grade is in percentage, steep grade is in the 3:1, so you can put some custom labeling in there as well. So, all right. Well, thanks everybody. I, promised not to go to 1, so technically I'm okay. 5 minutes, and try to show some more detail. Please try to get into this and use this. This is where you can really save a lot of time. You can see I plotted cross sections and basically, for all those and labeled a majority of almost everything. Probably could do that within 10 minutes, where that took a long time before. I've heard the order of hours or days to do that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of time saving there. And just hunt through the menus. Like I said, almost everything that you're going to need. If you go to the sample line group, right-click, hit Properties. Almost everything's in here. You can do material tables. I'm not going to get into that. But you can have material tables show up per section. A lot more little things you can edit in here. Did want to leave off with one last thing, if you can just hold for a second. This situation comes up a lot. Let me see. Actually, I pulled it far enough, unfortunately. Say your sample line width. You do it and you want to actually make it wider. How do you do that? Well, you can drag each one wider, but that would take a while. Again, sample line group, if you right-click, hit Properties, go to the sample lines, highlight them all, right? Go change one of them to, say we're going to do 50. Just click in the gray after you change it. They all change. Hit OK. You'll see the right side sample lines, look over here, will extend out to 50 feet off the center line, and all my cross sections are going to update. Okay, they sampled out, now they're 50 feet, and you can see all my cross sections push back to now sample 50 feet. There's a lot of those things in there. A lot of things can be updated. If you're doing manual stuff, check with me real quick to make sure you're not wasting your time or project's time. I know little tricks like that, and we'll show some more of those in CAD user group meetings and so on and so forth to help everybody out. Thanks to everybody for being patient last week, for making the interest in attending this week, and hopefully with this you save a bunch of time. Thanks, everyone.